Hey guys, good morning. We're going to be in the book of Job today. This is a pretty powerful section of scripture. Job chapter 1 is just full of really challenging stuff. And Job, we're going to see, is going to continue to be a man that is filled with integrity. And he's got his eyes fixed on the right things. And as we read through the things that are about to happen to Job, as a result of God's conversation with Satan and allowing Satan to now have access to his life, um, we need to ask ourselves the question: what are you going to do? What would you do if you were living a day in Job's shoes? How would you handle yourself if all of these things were to take place? And what would be your response? I think for all of us, we're challenged. I was challenged with it as I did my time with the Lord this morning over this scripture. And when disappointments arise, but even more than disappointments, great tragedy, great hardship, things that seem like they just aren't fair. How do we deal with that, and how powerfully true is our faith in the Lord? And that should be something that is deeply challenged. So get ready, be prepared. Let's get challenged by Job this morning. So we're going to start in verse 13. And as you remember, God has kind of let off the hedge of protection around Job. And so now the full forces of the enemy are at work. It says, verse 13, and now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And a messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them when the Sabeans raided them and took them away. Indeed, they have killed the servants, and the edge of the sword I alone have escaped to tell you. So we get to see right now is that all of the oxen and the donkeys ultimately were stolen by a group of people known as the Sabians. So now we start to see the livelihood, and things which just really aren't fair are going to be taken. So now you're thinking, in our normal case, well, what are we going to do to get that back? That would have been a pretty clear thing that would enrage us just with absolute anger that this would take place. Now there's a capacity for potential retribution in our own minds and revenge. The problem is the situation persists. Verse 16, and while he was still speaking, and there also came the fire of God from heaven, burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them. Is coming to say that heaven came. Maybe it was lightning, maybe it was just truly something supernatural. We're not sure, but it consumed all of the sheep. Now we get to see things are starting to disappear. This seems to be something just truly supernatural, where you look at it and be like, God, how in the world could something so crazy happen like this in my life? Verse 17, while he was still speaking, another said, the Chaldeans formed 3 bands, raided the camels, took them away, yes, and killed the servants with the edge of the sword. I alone have escaped to tell you. So not only do we have these groups, raiders, we have the Chaldeans, which is going to be a much larger people group, and they've come and attacked and taken even the camels and the source of protection that they would have, and all servants have been put to death. This is a pretty bad day. Well, it's only going to get worse for Job. While he was still speaking, verse 18, another came and said, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, and suddenly a great wind came across the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house and fell on the young people, and they are dead. I alone have escaped to tell you. Okay, so now it gets very, very close to home. His kids, the ones which he loved and he's been pouring into, he's been even making sacrifices for, 10 of them all in an instant, in a great tragedy, are now lost. So for Job, in a matter of a day, he looks around at his world, and the things that would have had value from an accomplishment perspective, gone. The things which would have had value from a personal perspective, his children, they're gone. And the servant would be faithful to him, would have been probably good friends at some level, gone. And so we're in the situation right now with Job where everything has legitimately been struck that would have had meaning, value here on this earth. We know that he still has his wife. In the future, you're going to find out that she's even going to have the completely wrong attitude. And so everything has been stripped. What do you do? What do you do at this point in time when you look around and you say it's not fair? It just doesn't seem right. The reality of it is the very cause of accusation, the very work that was happening in the heavenlies was to get Job to curse God. God, why in the world would you choose to do something so miserable and rotten in my life? But Job is going to have a different response. Look at me, verse 20. Then Job arose, tore his robe, shook his head, fell on the ground, and he worshipped. Obviously devastated. The sign of tearing his robe and shaving his head is just absolute devastation. He just has no hope right now. But what does he do? He gets on his face and he worships. He worships the Lord, understanding that God is in control of all things. We can't ever understand why certain things are happening. We can have great hope that he is in control. And then he would say this, verse 20, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this, Job did not sin nor charge God with wrong. Wow. All these things took place. All these things happened, and Job stood strong. What did he say? He recognized that God gave him his only been out of his grace and his goodness. And so therefore, he just has to trust, and he's going to simply, blessed be the name of the Lord. How do we get to a place where it is blessed be the name of the Lord? Well, guys, you know what? What does it take? It takes absolute worship of the Lord, absolute trust in the Lord. This is the place where we're able to discover where we can truly say that. So I don't know what's going on in your life and how hard things may be and the ups and downs which you may be facing and going through, even some of the things, say, God, why is this happening to me again? Rather than that, can we turn our hearts and our minds to a place where we would just bow before the Lord, worship him in spirit and in truth with great hope and with great trust, knowing that God has a good, perfect, most excellent plan in store, regardless of what that looks like, more for his kingdom than for ours. I love you guys. Be encouraged and strengthened by this word, be challenged by it. How would you handle these situations? And this is our model of what we can do as we can choose not to sin, even in our great tragedy. Love you guys. God bless y'all. And we will see you tomorrow morning.